Okay, so we're talking about hot, hairy, sweaty problems with reclassification. We've dealt for a moment about the default answer. If you change history on the transactions or the balances, the default answer is you're going to get a switch view. Everything from that point forward will be reclassed and processed and shown under the new classification scheme. If you do a join process and look up to, like, the department number, for example, from the customer ID, and you change that department, then you get a recast view. You change history. So all of the world before this changed, and now it all shows up under the new department. The old department doesn't show anything. So how can we, instead of having to go and produce two master files to maintain both of these views, an idea that will help in this situation is if we do a date effective join. What we need is we need two departments, and we need to know which department is effective as of which date, and then we have to be able to say, how do I want to report? Which way do I want to report by? So imagine for a moment our reference file, instead of just having the customer ID with the department next to it, we have the customer ID, and next to it we have an effective date, and then we have the department ID. And we put two rows into this reference file when we make our change. Our first row that's always been in there will be our customer ID, and the date for that, let's just say, is all zeros. This record has been effective since time began, in a certain sense, and this is our old department. Now, when we do a business event of changing our department, changing the department is considered a valid business event. We capture that business event in the reference data. And instead of changing the reference data, we add a new row to say, hey, as of this date, the department ID is now this. So we have the same customer ID, but as of the first of the month, we now say it's now this customer. So now we have two reference data. Now, what this means is, as we're processing transactions and doing our join processing, we have to supply another parameter. We have to say which date we want to report as of. If our reporting process passes in a date that is the end of the last month, it's going to search and it's going to find the first record, because the new date at the first of the new month is greater than the date, the reporting as of date that we passed in. And so our report would see the old department. If we pass in a date in the view, in the process of the reporting process, that is the second of the new month, it's going to fall back to it'll find the new department, because it now sees that is effective. There are ways of doing data effective processing where all the data is stored with an effective date, and you basically replicate all the reference data. Every time you make a change, you copy all of the reference data. That starts to accumulate too much data. Our reference data files begin to grow too voluminous if I have to copy everything with a new effective date showing the new process. This way that I'm talking about doing keeps the data small for the reference data processing, but it requires greater processing logic in our join processing, because we now have to compare less than or greater than against dates to determine which one of these is valid to us. Having this sort of reference file means that now I could choose which way I want to report. I could do a recast view that takes all of my data and shows it as of the second of the month, and everything will be under the new department. Or I could do a view where I pass in the date as of the first of the last day of the last month, excluding any new transactions, and I will get the historical view. I could also pass in the date on the transaction and have it join based upon the date on the transaction. That would give me a switch view. Transactions that came in before the first of the month will join and get the old department. Transactions that come in after the first of the month will get the new department. All of these processes are available with the date effective join, and it changes our reference data processes to follow the principles behind a business event based system as well. This is a very powerful concept and very useful in helping us to create more flexible reporting systems, and one of the key attributes we would have to have in order to build a metric engine.